Imagine waking up one morning to nothing but water where your entire world once stood. Homes still warm from last night's fires. Children's laughter frozen mid-kiko. Your mother's cooking pot half buried in the mud. This isn't some nightmare invented for tourists. This is Simbi Nyaima, the lake the Luo people still whisper about as the village that sank. A scandalous wound carved into the earth by one single, unforgivable act of cruelty. Picture it. The year was centuries ago, yet the elders swear it happened yesterday. A prosperous Luo settlement perched near the shimmering edge of what would become Lake Victoria's influence. Fat with fish, overflowing with millet and cattle, drums beating until dawn while roasted meat dripped fat into the coals. Then one night, the ground simply opened its jaws and swallowed every arrogant soul who had slammed their doors on a stranger. Tonight, I'm dragging you back to that fatal feast, where pride feasted louder than any drum, and the price was paid in screams swallowed by black water. Stay with me, because what the old woman did next still chills the blood of every Luo child raised on this tale. Before the curse, Simbi was paradise wrapped in scandalous excess. Lush green hills rolling down to fertile plains where the lake's breath made crops best overnight, and fish practically jumped into the nets. The chief, a towering man named Ogwela, lorded over it all with a belly full of pombe and a harem of wives who fought like hyenas over his attention, while the villagers strutted like kings who had earned every grain of their wealth through blood and sweat alone. Feasts spilled from every homestead. Women in beaded skirts grinding sorghum, men roasting whole goats until the air reeked of sizzling fats and secret brews. Young lovers sneaking behind huts under moonlight while drums throbbed like racing hearts. Children chased each other through the dust. Elders told tall tales of conquest, and laughter rolled across the village like thunder that never quite broke. Wealth had made them drunk enough to forget that in Luo blood, a guest is sacred. A stranger might be an ancestor testing your soul. But nobody whispered that truth aloud. Instead, they toasted their own glory, blind to the gathering storm clouds that already whispered warnings only the wind could hear. The chief's arrogance was the juiciest poison in Simbi. Ogwela would stand at the center of every harvest celebration, beer horn in hand, bellowing how his people owed nothing to outsiders, how the gods themselves had blessed only the strong. Villagers echoed him with cruel glee, slamming doors on weary travelers, mocking the ragged poor who dared beg for scraps, even dragging beggars away by their tattered clothes, while the whole arena roared with laughter that dripped like venom. Young warriors boasted of their strength by tossing old women into the depths. Mothers taught children that kindness was weakness, and the chief's jealous wives spread gossip that any stranger was probably a thief or worse, a spy sent to steal their overflowing granaries. One lone voice dared whisper mercy. A quiet woman named Awino, mother of 3 small children, who once slipped a gourd of water and a handful of roasted maize to a passing elder, but even she was shouted down by her own neighbors. The air grew thick with unspoken guilt that night, yet the drums beat louder to drown it out. The pombe flowed heavier, and every soul convinced themselves their cruelty was strength. Little did they know the stranger they were about to scorn carried the fury of forgotten gods in her wrinkled skin. She arrived exactly when the feast hit its scandalous peak. Harvest drums pounding, meat fat flying, the chief roaring drunk on his throne of carved stools. The old woman shuffled into the firelight like a ghost from another world, dusty rags clinging to her frail bones, face hidden beneath a tattered headscarf, smelling of distant rain and something ancient, something wrong. Her voice cracked like dry leaves as she begged at door after door. Just a morsel, my children, a corner to rest these old bones before the night swallows me whole. Doors slammed in her face with theatrical bangs. Warriors mocked her crooked back and called her the witch who reeks of death. Children pelted her with stones while their mothers cackled, and Chief Ogwela himself waved a lazy hand, sneering, "We have no room for your kind. Take your curses elsewhere, hag." Only Aweno's trembling hand slipped her a secret bundle of food, but the crowd dragged the old woman away anyway, laughing as she stumbled into the gathering darkness. She paused at the edge of the village, turned once, and fixed them with eyes that suddenly glowed like coals from hell itself. Thunder rumbled far off like the gods clearing their throats, and the cold wind whipped up, carrying her muttered words that no one quite heard, but everyone felt them sink into their bones like knives. Night deepened into something unnatural, the feast raging on as if louder music could bury the shame. Chief Ogwela danced with every wife. Villagers stuffed their bellies until they could barely stand, and the drums tried desperately to outrun the guilt creeping through every shadow. Then the sky tore open without warning, clouds racing in like vengeful spirits, wind howling accusations, and the first fat drops of rain slapping skin like angry slaps from the ancestors. But this wasn't ordinary rain. The earth itself trembled, cracks spider-webbing across the ground as if the land was ripping its own flesh. Water didn't just fall from above, it erupted from below, black and boiling, swallowing hearts whole while people screamed in pure animal terror. Livestock vanished in the churning mud. Children were torn from mothers' arms. Warriors who had mocked the old woman moments earlier now clawed at collapsing walls, begging the same gods they had ignored. And there she stood at the water's edge, the old woman transformed, no longer frail but towering, arms raised like a queen of vengeance, her voice booming over the storm. "You turned away salvation itself. Now drink your pride until it drowns you." The village sank in minutes, sucked into a maw of water that rose faster than any flood ever dreamed. By dawn, the scandal was complete. Where proud Simbi had stood, only a glassy new lake shimmered under pale light, steam curling like ghosts still whispering their final regrets. A handful of survivors, including the merciful Owino and her children who had fled to the hills, watched in numb horror as the water settled into an eerie calm. Pink flamingos already circling as if the lake had always belonged to them. The chief's carved stool floated briefly before sinking forever. The drums were silenced mid-beat. Every arrogant boast, every slammed door, every cruel laugh had been paid for in full. Elders later swore they heard the old woman's laughter echoing across the water at night, a chilling reminder that gods wear many faces, sometimes the ragged beggar you spit on. The lake they named Simbi Nyaima, the sunken village, still bubbles with alkaline secrets, its healing waters bottled by locals who both revere and fear it, while the flamingos dance across its pink surface like spirits celebrating their victory. Science calls it a volcanic crater born centuries ago, but every Luo heart knows better. It was born from one night of unforgivable cruelty that the ancestors will never let us forget. Today, Simbi Nyaima sits near Kendu Bay like a beautiful scar. Tourists flock for the flamingos and the eerie beauty. Locals collect its soda-rich water for cures that seem to work miracles. Yet every elder still warns children never to repeat the village's fatal mistake. Variations of the legend swirl like the lake's own mists. Some say the old woman was Nyamgondo's own scorned wife. Others tie her to ancient migration spirits, testing the Luo soul during their wanderings. Strange events still whisper around its shores. Lights dancing on moonless nights, sudden storms rising from nowhere, voices carried on the wind that sound suspiciously like the chief's final screams. Visitors feel the weight of it, that prickling sense that the water is watching, judging whether modern hearts still slam doors on strangers begging for mercy. The place demands respect. No loud parties on its banks. No mocking the poor who come seeking its healing. Because Simbi Nyaima isn't just a lake. It's living proof that hospitality is the thread holding low culture together. And once you snap it, the earth itself will swallow your arrogance whole. In the end, the cruelest scandal of Simbi Nyaima isn't the sinking. It's how easily we still repeat it in our fast, selfish world, slamming literal and figurative doors on the weary stranger who might carry our salvation. Luo tradition screams that a guest is sacred. Yet, how many of us turn away the beggar, the emigrant, the broken soul at our feast because they don't look like us or smell like success? The old woman at Simbi wasn't just a hag. She was every forgotten ancestor, testing whether kindness still lived in our blood. Next time someone asks for help, picture that glowing gaze and the water rising beneath your feet. If this tale of drowned pride and divine revenge shook something loose in you, hit that like button, smash subscribe so you never miss another African legend that hits harder than any Hollywood ghost story. And drop your own family version of Simbi Nyaima in the comments. I read every single one. Have you ever turned away a stranger and wondered later if the ancestors noticed? Share it below. Asanteni sana for listening with open hearts. Next week, we dive into the blood-soaked secrets of the Nandi bear. Until then, remember, in a world full of closed doors, be the one who opens them, or risk waking up to water where your whole life used to be.